Hey class, welcome back to our science subject. I'm glad to be jumping back into weather and climate with you. And this is our last section for this book. And then you have your unit assessment. And then we'll be jumping into our energy transfer and transformation section for science. So before we get into this last section, let's just review what we talked about last time. We talked about air masses and fronts. We talked about how when cold air comes over warm or under warm air and shoots up the warm air, it causes a cold front. I can pull up the picture right here. And then when warm air comes in under cold air, then it creates a warm front, right? We talked about weather instruments and the ways that meteorologists can use these instruments and other ones to study the weather to help us as citizens be prepared for any severe weather. It helps the scientists know what weather might be coming and gets everybody prepared. Okay, so let's get into our last section, which is a short one, okay? So I know you guys can stay focused. You probably won't need to pause the video or take a break. It's just a couple pages. So let's get focused and finish out this book strong. Okay, what is climate? Let's make a connection. In the southwestern United States, where we're at, precipitation is scarce and summer temperatures are very high. Meteorologists describe this region as having a desert climate. That kind of look like the areas around us. Wonder where this picture is taken. What do you think climate means? And so now we're going to learn the differences between weather and climate. Okay, so right here, this is what we're going to find about. We're going to find out about how climate and how it differs from weather, and then the factors that affect climate. All right, weather patterns and climate. Weather can change unexpectedly, even in minutes, but some daily weather changes occur in regular patterns. For example, most days are cooler in the morning, warmer in the afternoon as the sun energy heats Earth, and cooler again in the evening. Nights are typically cooler than days. Weather changes occur in seasonal patterns too. Summer weather is generally warmer than winter weather. Okay, now climate is different from weather. Climate is the average weather pattern in an area over many years. The two main characteristics of a region's climate are its average temperature and average precipitation. And why did it say characteristics and not factors of climate? Well, remember, characteristics or properties are things that can be measured, right? So temperature, air temperature, and precipitation. Oh, I struggle saying that. Sorry, guys. Temperature and precipitation are things that can be measured, okay? And so those are the two main characteristics of climate. Climate is usually described in terms of these two features. For example, a place with a cold climate has cool to warm summers, cold winters, and moderate precipitation. An area's climate depends on several factors. One factor that affects climate is latitude, or distance north or south of the equator. So we are north of the equator right now. Places near the equator tend to be warmer than places far from the equator. Another factor is elevation, a distance above sea level, right? We're about over 5,000 feet above sea level. That's our elevation here in Gallup. The higher a region's elevation, the cooler its climate tends to be. That is why mountainous areas often have cool climates. Landforms such as mountain ranges also have an effect on climate. Often one side of the mountain range receives a lot of precipitation because air cools and loses its moisture as it rises over the mountains. A dry area called a rain shadow forms on the other side of the range. Large bodies of water affect climate because water heats up and cools down more slowly than land does, right? So the water cycle, water heating up and evaporating, going into the atmosphere, cooling down, and then condensing, and then precipitating back to the earth. So areas near the ocean tend to have warmer winters and cooler summers than inland areas. They may be cloudier and rainier as well. Let's look at this cool key right here. It shows the climate zones of North America. We have these different colors. So this yellow one, this is where we are, the desert. Hot summers, cool to hot winters, light precipitation. That's where we're at. We're in this desert climate. I just moved from this temperate climate over here on the east. So warm to hot summers, there's definitely hot summers, mild winters, yeah, and light precipitation, but very humid. I also lived in Washington, and maybe it had more of this mountain climate. But think of where you're at, or where you've been. Maybe you've moved from a different place in the United States, and share what that climate was like that you moved from. Okay, and this is our last page, guys. We are almost done. Coastal areas also may be warmed or cooled by ocean currents, which are like rivers or water flowing through the ocean. The warm Gulf Stream flows north along the east coast, and the cool California current flows south along the west coast. Prevailing winds have an impact on climate too, as they blow over large parts of the earth in a constant direction. These global winds distribute heat and moisture from one region to another. Certain gases in Earth's atmosphere trap heat, keeping Earth's climate warm. Without this greenhouse effect, most living things on Earth could not exist. And if more of these gases get into the atmosphere, Earth's climate could get even warmer, such as change is called global warming. Okay, and then here is your last checkpoint, and then remember to do your apply science concept. So we talked about how climate is the general overarching temperature and precipitation of an area, right? So our climate here in Gallup, New Mexico is that desert climate, more dry, not as much precipitation, hotter summers, mild to cold winters. But if we were going to, let's say like north, we'd have maybe that, let's say it would be like that cold, right? We're up here in the north, that cold, cool to warm summers, so not very hot, and then cold winters with moderate precipitation, so a little bit more than we got here. All right. And then this is kind of showing the prevailing winds and their patterns. We got the westerlies going from west to east. You have the easterlies going from the east to west. You have the trade winds. These are called the trade winds because when they used to trade with ship, these winds would help them travel, from, from Europe over to North America, or vice versa, right? Okay. All right, well, that is it. That is our weather and climate section. I hope you guys enjoyed learning more about this. Good luck on your unit assessment. I know you guys will do great. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Remember to get your vocabulary done, and please use the definitions from the glossary, from the book, and not copy and paste it from the internet or anywhere else. And I will see you guys in the next lesson. See ya.